Hello, Lakers fans. This is Wilson. So, it's Friday right now at 9:12 a.m. So the day after the second round of the NBA draft, and the Lakers um, made an interesting selection that caught my. It wasn't even a selection. So basically, the Lakers made two trades yesterday. Uh, The first one, the Lakers traded their 55th pick. I'm reading from Yahoo Sports. Who wrote this? Broderick Turner. The Lakers traded their 55th pick and about $2.5 million in cash to the Chicago Bulls for their 45th pick. Then the Lakers sent that number 45 pick and cash considerations to the Timberwolves to acquire the rights to Adou Thiero out of Arkansas. Thiero was originally selected by the Nets. Now the Lakers, in selecting Thiero, it says here, to get with many with the Lakers and around the NBA view as a super athletic wing in the 6'6" Thiero. Thiero is 6'6", 217 pounds. Out of Arkansas, spent the first 2 years at Kentucky, where he was recruited by John Calipari, and then transferred to Arkansas when Calipari left Kentucky to take the Arkansas job. He was a four-star recruit coming out of high school, and last year he led Arkansas in scoring as they reached the Sweet 16. Um, before falling, who did Arkansas lose in the Sweet 16? I'll check. I forgot, but yeah, I just think it's interesting. Um, an interesting selection because I think it's a player who they lost to Texas Tech in the Sweet 16 in a game that they had under control, and they couldn't finish the game. Um, and so, but I think Thiero is is how you said Thiero or Thiero. I think it's always kind of exciting when you can get one of these guys with that type of pedigree, right? With a kid who John Calipari looked at and said, okay, this is someone who I think Calipari doesn't recruit just anybody. Everybody he recruits is somebody he thinks could be an NBA an NBA player. And Calipari likes guys. So I remember him saying that when he was at Kentucky, he wanted guys who could put on the floor and make something happen. So um, this kid. Uh, in an NBA, whereas I think I said in the last episode, where it's like you can't have enough guards and wings in today's NBA. We just saw Houston; they had stockpiled all these guards and wings, and they cashed a couple of them in for Kevin Durant. Even though I think it's not going to end up making a difference for Houston, but they cashed a couple of them in, and they still have more. They still have. Uh, um, they still have the kid Reed Shepard, who they just took, like I think third overall last year. They still have Cam Whitmore, who was a first round pick for them. Um, so uh, yeah, and then also Tar Eason. So but Tar Eason's a power forward, okay, but a new age power forward. But basically, yeah, I mean, you just I guess in today's NBA, it's been proven that you can't have enough uh, guards and wings. And we just saw what Oklahoma City did. They took Cason Wallace. They took Cason Wallace with let me see what pick he was. They took Cason Wallace with the 10th overall pick, and they just pretty much have been use him as a as a defensive player. You know, um, and they have all these wings guys that you can just bring out the bench. Aaron Wiggins and shoot, a bunch. Forget about Shea and Jalen and all those guys. So now the Lakers have another one after getting Dalton Connect last year. Now they've added Adou Thiero. Is it Thiero or Thiero? I'm not sure. Hope it's some of these things. I mean, it's in a TH that should be Thiero, but sometimes don't they call what's the guy's name? Thierry Henry. They call him Thierry though, right? So yeah, Isaiah Joe, the other guy, he didn't play in Game 7, but you know, I guess you just want guys who give you options, and then also you're stockpiling assets. So it's an interesting choice for the Lakers. Like I said, it's always kind of exciting when you can get a guy who comes from that type of pedigree. And then similarly, it caught my eye that they signed Eric Dixon. He went to Villanova and led the nation in scoring last year. They signed him to a two-way contract, and they signed RJ Davis from North Carolina to an Exhibit 10. And both of those guys played 5 years in college. So you're talking about Villanova and North Carolina, and then this kid from Arkansas, but he was Kentucky first. So we're talking about kids who were you don't get to those schools in the first place if you can't play basketball, right? And RJ Davis is someone who had a distinguished career in North Carolina. Made a national championship game, but lost. But he'll be interesting. I would like to see him work out and be somebody that the Lakers could use. Remember, we had Scottie Pippen Jr. and he's turned out to be a pretty good player. Could we develop? I mean, we didn't really develop him. We let him get away. But could R.J. Davis be somebody like that that we keep, who can turn it and develop into a good NBA player? So yeah, man, definitely caught my eye. Those Lakers picking up those three young players, and we'll see what happens when JJ gets them in the program, and what he can do with them. But yeah, it's another Thiero, especially another. It's a wing who, it was at the 36th pick. Second round picks these days, I feel like they're second round picks in today's NBA. It's a little bit different, I think, than it was when I was coming up, where your second round pick, it's like who knows what might happen, right? But these kids today, second rounds, they're going to get a chance to play and do something and make some money. So we'll see. We'll just have to see how it goes, though. Now, elsewhere in the draft, so basically, we all knew what the top two was going to be, and of course, it was Cooper Flag to Dallas and Dylan Harper to San Antonio. I already talked about Dylan Harper and how, my original thought, which contradicted what I've just been saying for the last 8 minutes, was that, why does San Antonio need Dylan Harper when they already have De'Aaron Fox? They already have the kid from UConn who just won Rookie of the Year. They already have Devin Vassell. I know Devin Vassell is someone who's basically just an expendable piece at this point. But why do you need all three? I need Dylan Harper and the kid from UConn and now and also you have De'Aaron Fox. But I don't know. I mean, I guess like I said, I guess you just can't have enough of them. But you would think that when I say you can't have enough, I mean it in terms of depth, right? But why do you need three guys who are, of course, the other kid is Stephon Castle? Why do you need three guys who just, Castle just won Rookie of the Year? So why do you need three guys who are all going to need the ball? When Dylan Harper, he somebody who basically comps to someone like a James Harden or somebody like that. I don't know. Somebody's going to have to take a back seat. So but we'll see. I mean, it's the Spurs, so they usually know what they're doing. Now Cooper Flag is someone who I like Cooper Flag a lot as a player, but I just think he's more of a supporting player. He's more like the type of player who will be a big piece on a championship team. It more so than the main, the main ingredient, right? So he's more of a Chet Holmgren or a Jalen Williams than he is a you know a Shea Gilgeous Alexander, right? Now it's weird because most of the time when you talk about teams that win championships, the main piece I think it comes first, right? And then then the help comes after that, right? So Curry was in Golden State, before uh, the Clay and Draymond got drafted afterwards. Uh, then you know you know shoot. I mean Jordan was in Chicago first, and then Pippen. Uh, he came. Pippen, Horace Grant, those guys they came. Uh, they were drafted after Michael was drafted. Uh, so but now in a situation, I mean, it's happened before though. It's like a situation like Boston, right? Basically, Boston, Jaylen Brown was drafted a year before uh, Jason Tatum was drafted, and and they ended up becoming a championship team. I'll talk about them too in the trades that they've made in a minute. Um, but it's just fascinating. Uh, but I think Cooper Flag is more. I think he's going to be a world class two-way supporting player. Now the thing about Flag is that of course he was a freshman last year at Duke, but he really should have been a senior in high school. So he's a year young for his class. So his ceiling could be even higher than you know what it was projected. And he's one of those guys who was a lock to be the first overall pick. Before he even reached before he even got to college, before he got to Duke. So um, was I think he's going to be a fantastic player, but maybe not. Like I said, maybe not on the first tier. There's nothing wrong with being Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen's one of the greatest players of all time. I say that all the time, but I don't know if he's going to be that. I don't know if he's going to be the main, the bus driver, if you will. But I definitely think he's the type of piece, a type of building block that you want if you want to get to where an OKC just got to, right? Um, Now, so it's gonna be the third pick, VJ Edgecombe, who normally would have, if Ace Bailey was just a normal person, VJ Edgecombe would have been the fourth pick. But instead, he got bumped up to three to Philadelphia. So once in another situation, Philadelphia already has Tyrese Maxey. They already have Jared McCain, who showed last year that he could ball as a rookie before he got hurt. Uh, Paul George, obviously, he's a old Paul George, not the Paul George of old. They have him on a big contract. And now they have this young kid, VJ Edgecombe, coming in, and he's drawing comparisons to Dwayne Wade and Oladipo. right? So when Oladipo was coming out, he got comparisons to Wade. Oladipo ended up being a really good player when he was healthy. But my guess is that VJ Edgecombe, I mean, his ceiling is not Dwayne Wade. It's probably Oladipo, right? Uh, and that would be fine. And Oladipo, like I said, he was a really good player before the injuries. He's got to hope that Edgecombe can stay healthy, which Oladipo was not able to for you know into his 30s. Uh, then you had Concanipple going fourth to Duke. I like Concanipple. He kind of reminds me he's like a smaller version of Dunleavy Jr., who of course was I don't know if the youngsters listening to this will know that, but Mike Dunleavy Jr. Was a hell of a player at Duke. And I think he was the third or fourth pick in the 2002 draft. And then Mike Dunleavy was a pretty good NBA player. Wasn't a star, wasn't a great player by any means, but he could play. I think his best year he averaged like 19 points a game. It was a good player. I mean, not everybody's going to be a star. You know, but Dunleavy was 6'9". Canepa was only 6'5", but he looks like him, and he just kind of reminds me of him. But he's smaller. They're built differently. Dunleavy was tall and lean, and Knippel is at 6'5". He's 219 pounds, so he's got some girth to him. Pause. Uh, but I mean, I do like his game. He shot 41% from three last year, and I think he'll be a good player. I'm not sure who his comp is. Um, Shoot, I'm thinking. Hmm. I don't know. I guess I have to give it some more thought. But he's going to Charlotte, and Charlotte is interesting because really, Ace Bailey would have been the perfect person to play in Charlotte because they got nothing but knuckleheads there, right? But instead, it's going to be Knipple. Maybe he can change their culture, by being like a more mature professional. Uh, But then on the other hand, what if it's that toxic environment that they have there? It kind of you hope it. I don't think it would wear off on him, but a guy like that who comes in and he has a good attitude and a good work ethic and a good way of approaching the game, it just kind of sucks when he goes to a place where everybody there is kind of like a knucklehead basically. Um, but yeah, I like his game. Maybe he could be. Well, no, I don't know. Austin Reeves has more. They have similar, body types. But Austin Reeves is more of a. Austin Reeves got all these handles and stuff like that. I think Kneppel's more of a probably he's a better pure shooter. Probably doesn't have as much game. But I think he can also do some stuff off the dribble. Of course, the thing that's hard about making player comparisons is that if the guy is white, you can't make cross racial comparisons between players. It just doesn't seem right. So now I'm thinking about maybe Christian Brown. Probably not the athlete Christian Brown is though, right? Um, Shoot, I don't know. That's a tough one. Grayson Allen, maybe. I like him more than Grayson Allen though. I think he has a little bit more to his game than Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen got a bag. I think they didn't. I forgot how much the Suns gave him, but it was it was life changing money. Uh, but yeah, but I like the kid Knuckle. Um, and you got let's see, finally Amari Bailey. He went fifth. to the Jazz, and I like it because basically the Jazz haven't had. I mean, Lauri Markkinen is a good player, but if your team is winning 20 games every year, right? What is that saying about you, right? So basically, I mean, in a certain sense, the Jazz don't really have any players, right? I mean, Lauri Markkinen is an asset that they could possibly use, or if Bailey ends up being really good, then Markkinen is a piece that works alongside him. But I just kind of like the idea of Bailey, with all this game that he has, being able to go to Utah and right away be pretty much they should just let him just do whatever he wants right off the bat. They suck. They've been nothing but terrible. And it was sucks that I think they're not going to do that because they're going to start trying to win games now. But I mean I don't know who they have to win the games, right? So I mean if I were them I would just let him come in and just hit the ground running. You know, um, I said that he might be the most. First, I was going to say he was the most talented player the Jazz have had in years. And then I thought of it. I said he might be the most. If we're just talking about raw talent, he might be the most talented player that the Jazz have ever had. Right now, the Jazz had obviously, and somebody, when I said that, they took issue with it. They're like, well, that's kind of stupid to say that when the Jazz obviously had Malone and Stockton and Donovan Mitchell. But if we're just talking about raw talent, right? Jazz also had, uh, Darren Williams, who was a great player. Had Carlos Boozer, who was a really good player. Had Adrian Dantley, before Malone and Stockton, right? But it's like if we're just talking raw talent, Ace Bailey at 6 foot, and let's him at 6'8". He looks bigger than that. Smooth as hell, you know. Uh, Handles, shot making, everything that you could possibly have. Now, the high end comp for somebody with his build and his skill set is Kevin Durant. Under the mid level is, I would say, like a Rudy Gay, right? Rudy Gay was another guy, big, could handle it, could shoot it, talented player. Averaged basically 18 to 20 points for a long time in the league, but never an all star or anything like that. And then at the low end would be somebody like Michael Beasley, right? Michael Beasley had as much talent as anybody, but he ended up just being like basically a disappointment, especially as a number 2 overall pick. Now this kid Bailey, who did not work out for any individual teams, but he did work out at the combine, and his agent is named Omar Cooper. His agent looks like basically like he's like a he looks like the CEO of one of these like rap labels or something, right? But not the kind of indie rap labels though, not like Bad Boy or Rockefeller or something like that, like the corporate labels, like the labels that were like a little bit more janky, right? That's how he looks. And actually, I was just looking at a video of him, and that's how he came off. And then he just I don't know. It's just his pre-draft process. It left a lot to be desired. Some of the decisions that he made with that. But talent-wise, his talent is undeniable. But if you don't have your head on straight, I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? Um, so, but yeah, going to Utah, if they're smart, I think that they'll just let him come in and you know let the team be his canvas. He's the most talented player that they've had. Like I said, maybe ever. If we're just talking about raw talent, it sounds silly because uh, if someone said it sounds silly, it was silly to say that, but it sounds silly because he hasn't even played an NBA game yet, and the Jazz have had you know some great great players, but we're just talking raw talent, you know. Um, Now the rest of the first round, I don't really have any. I mean, I don't really have anything. Walter Clayton Jr. Drafted by Washington, but he'll go to Utah to play with Bailey. That'll be interesting. And other than that, I mean, Jace Richardson, that's the kid. That's Jason Richardson's son who went to Michigan. He also went to Michigan State. He's going to he's going to Orlando. And shoot, what happened around two? Zion James, he's going to Charlotte. Janai Broom, he's going to the Sixers. Anybody else worth talking about? Tyrese Proctor from Duke, he's going to the Cavaliers. Will Richard from Florida, he's going to Memphis. So that's that. Now I mentioned the Celtics. The Celtics first they traded Drew Holiday, who they got Drew Holiday from Portland, and now they're trading him back to Portland. Of course, Drew's never actually played a game for Portland. Milwaukee traded Drew to Portland, and then Portland traded Drew to the Celtics. They got a ring. This year they came back, and they still won 61 games, didn't they? But then they were losing. They were losing that game for New York when Tatum tore his Achilles, and they lost in 6. And I was thinking to myself, man, well, I was thinking they come in next year and that'd be like, the '94 Bulls without Jordan, right? So I feel like they were still going to be a 50-win team in the East. But instead they looked at it, how much money. Everybody, I can't really explain the second apron thing. All I know is that nobody wants to pay the tax associated and the penalties associated with it. So basically that's what the Celtics did. They got out of that. They got out of, that predicament, and they shared between those two trades, Drew Holiday to Portland, which were able to get Anthony Simons back. He's going to be on an inspiring deal, and then also, and Drew had just signed his extension after they won the title, but now he's gone. And then they traded Porzingis in a 3-team deal, and they only got back George Niang. So, I mean, supposedly Derek White and even Jaylen Brown are also available, but it's going to be a steep price to pay for. But it's looking like the Celtics are just going to they saved $180 million in fees basically by making this trade, and looks like they're going to tank next year, I guess, and try to get a high draft pick. I don't know. They even have their first round pick for next year. The way these teams swap and trade these draft picks now is insane. But yeah, we'll have to. Celtics just basically deciding about it. I guess they're going to punt on next season. If they feel like they're not going to win a championship, they might as well save some money and then hit the reset button. And then when Tatum comes back, see if they can jump back in. But yeah, so that was interesting. So I just wanted to say one last thing though, which is I talked about boxing a couple weeks ago. The Canelo and Crawford fight that's going to be on September 13th. Also, before I get to that, the Suns got Mark Williams from the Hornets, so I guess he was healthy enough for the Suns. He wasn't healthy enough for the Lakers. So, also, the Nets had 4 picks in the first round, and drafted. They had 5 in the first round, and 4 of them were spent on guards. So once again, I guess you can't have enough guards or wings. And even if you can't play all of them, well, they're assets to move. But yeah, man, Max Kellerman and Jim Lampley, it was announced this week, I guess, that, I don't know if it was announced. I saw it that Max and Lamps were going to be calling the fight. And then when they had the introductory press conference, Dana White bring Jim and Max out there. So um, I think I just think that Dana and in Turkey, man, I just think that they know what they're doing. You know, they get it. They understand that boxing is a sport where I understand that the boxing is not like other sports where the it's like people complain now about Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson, right, in the NBA. And historically, so like for me in college football, Keith Jackson, he was the standard, and then you had I liked it when he was with Dan Fouts, right? But he had different partners over the years, like before my time. In the NFL, nothing will ever top, Madden and Summerall, right? Uh, and so on and so forth, right? But at the same time, it's like, really the announcing team, it kind of just adds to, it doesn't really make or break uh, the broadcast in basketball and baseball and football. Whereas for people like me in boxing, um, if you don't have the right broadcast team, it's like I don't really want to watch it. It's like it's part of the deal, kind of. And so for me, when I was coming up, it was HBO, it was HBO Boxing, it was HBO After Dark, it was Showtime. And what was unique is that I don't know, it's not, it wasn't unique, it shouldn't be. Uh, is that you had the people who called the fights were boxing lifers, you know, Jim Lampley, Max Kellerman. Uh, I'm talking about the people who didn't actually, step in the ring. Harold Letterman, Steve Farhood, Al Bernstein, Steve Albert. These were boxing people. That's what they did. That was their life, was boxing. And now you have guys like, Chris Mannix, he was originally a basketball writer. I think he still writes about basketball. And then you have guys like, Beto Duran. Beto Duran is like an ESPN LA guy. I think he'll do like national ESPN, like on the sidelines too, doesn't he now? But Beto Duran, why is he, doing boxing? And Chris Manning, that doesn't make any sense to me. It wasn't like that for it. It just started being like that, like in the last one, around the time they were getting rid of, HBO. But you got to know how to put together the right broadcast team to call the fight, because boxing is not a casual sport. Boxing is a it's a really a niche sport that at one point in this country was huge. But even then, the people who called boxing, I mean, they knew boxing inside out. They knew the history of boxing. You know, but boxing is so technical. You can't just have anybody. boxing, remember, boxing is a science, right? So you can't just have anybody up there calling the fight. It needs to be people who actually have a passion for the sport. And that's what Max Kellerman and Jim Lampley have. Those guys can sit there and talk boxing with you. I mean, going back who knows how long. They know the ins and outs, the history, all the greats from the past, and I think that's important. It just gives you a different vibe and a different feel when you have people like that, calling these fights. And I think that's just it's just another example of you know Dana and first of all Turkey to bring Dana in, knowing that the success that Dana has had with UFC, he knows how to build big promotions, and then whoever's idea it was to bring in um, Max and Lampley. I mean, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Turkey's well, I mean, I guess they partnered up, right? But really, I mean, Dana's a UFC guy, so really Turkey is the mastermind of it all, and yeah, I just think that they just get it, man. And I was, like, um, Was it Jason telling me that Turkey is like a real life, real deal, like boxing enthusiast? You know, so I'm gonna talk to Jason, talking about my friend Jason Wolf. You know, so yeah, I just think that's something that that's the type of thing that'll draw me back in. And it's good to know that Max is back. He's been on hiatus for like 2 years ever since he got ousted at ESPN. So it's just good that he's back, and it'll be interesting to see who the third man will be. The color guy. Uh, will it be Roy Jones? I hope it's Roy Jones. I think that would be great. Obviously, he was part of that team with those other two guys at HBO. So uh, yeah, man, I think it'll be. I think it's. Is it a real fight or is it a gimmick fight? Like I think most boxing people think that I mean how is Bud really gonna pull that off, right? I thought it was funny. I was looking at it. It was a video of Raleigh Romero. It was like a compilation of these guys, and Jason always talks about these guys who, I mean, he don't like all of them, but there's certain fighters in this era who they call it like the golden age. But you got your Raleigh Romero's, you got your uh, Shakur and Devin and Tank Davis and these type of guys. And I don't know. I mean, I don't really think that they, I mean, for sure, I think Davis is the type of fighter who could, compete in the past era. Uh, and maybe Haney. Ryan Garcia. I mean, I don't think Ryan Garcia could. I don't think he's that. I don't really think he's really an elite fighter like that. But as far as entertainment value goes, like I mean, they talk a pretty good game. I was looking at this clip. It was like a compilation of them, talking trash. I was like, this is pretty funny, right? And Romero was saying that Canelo, that Canelo Crawford is gonna go like Canelo and Amir Khan, where Amir was boxing Canelo's head off for the first at the start of the fight, and then boom, out of nowhere, Canelo just completely wrecks him with that right hand. And I mean, that could be true. I mean, it's a 147, 54 pounder against a 168 pounder at the end of the day, right? So Canelo's way stronger. Even though they're like the same height basically. Canelo's going to be the stronger person. So I mean, how is Crawford going to be able to hurt Canelo? No, Canelo's never really been hurt against. And Canelo's not. And everybody Canelo fights 168 pounds are really bigger than him. He moved up to 175, and he still was never hurt. So against Bivol. So you know, um, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But I just feel like these guys, they kind of like Romero and those guys that I named. They kind of remind me of like Floyd and and that crew before, like Floyd and Manny got the Oscar fight. So like Floyd and those guys from 2006 and earlier. Floyd and Cotto and the smaller guys, the 130 guys, Pacquiao and them. They were definitely they were all fighting and maybe being entertaining and doing entertaining little interviews and stuff like that. But it didn't really matter because they were at the very top. I mean, they weren't at the at the mainstream level yet. Oscar was up there, and then it wasn't until Floyd and Manny got to fight Oscar that now all those other guys they're able to get some mega fights because they're fighting Floyd and Manny. But I feel like these guys, Haney and Davis and Shakur and Romero and these guys, they don't have an Oscar because Canelo, number one, he's all the way up at 168 now, and number two, he really in the last 5 years, Canelo hasn't been doing the same type of numbers that used to. Oscar star power maintained throughout, right, to the end of his career. Canelo will do big numbers, even though it's going to be on Netflix, so it's not the same. You're not going to get a pay-per-view figure for it. But Canelo will do big numbers against Crawford. But if you look at the last 5 years, I think the Caleb Plant fight did 800,000 pay-per-view buys. But most of Canelo's most successful fights at the box office in terms of pay-per-view buys came, before then against, Cotto and Golovkin and Mayweather. So, they have this. There's nobody for those guys, and those that like I said, Romero and Tank and those guys fighting in that weight numera. There's nobody for them to look up to that they can. Okay, if I fight that guy, now I'm at the a different level now, the celebrity household name level. It's no way for them to get there. Well, I think I've rambled on enough now for today. And with that being said, all I have left to say is before I get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailbag questions to CompleteLakersPodcast at gmail.com. I am out.